My name is Mike Nierychlo, sharing my love for people, wine, food, and all things made passionately. So today's show, got a very special gentleman here from Averill Creek Winery, Andy Johnston, the proprietor and on and off winemaker of Averill Creek is here today. Andy, it's a pleasure to have you in the garage.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming by. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Averill Creek? We're located on Vancouver Island. It's
a new wine area that's building its name. We are the largest winery on Vancouver Island. 30 acres, 100 tons of grapes a year, about 65 to 70,000 litres at the moment. And all estate fruit. I'm basically a grape grower. What my friends call me the raisin rancher.
There you go.
And I think it's very important when you start out is that you do grow your own grapes, because of the conundrum between being a grower and being a winemaker. The grower wants the quantity, the winemaker wants the quality. So I'm my own grape grower. I decide on what I'm going to put in my bottle.
There you go. Now a lot of people will say Vancouver Island, Cowichan Valley. It's a cooler climate. Now you've chosen specific varieties and specific techniques to accommodate that. How do you feel about the climate there? In
the climate is actually much better than people understand. First of all, the first clue you've got, the word Cowichan is Salish for the warm land.
Really?
So this is a place that's hot. And the temperatures between May to September range between 25 and 35 most days. Average rainfall the same period, 35 millimetres, 40 millimetres. So you've got a nice long hot summer. The biggest problems are that the heat doesn't carry on through into the fall. So if you don't pick by the middle of October, then you're in trouble, because it's 6 degrees and raining. So the season might not be quite long enough, and we can do things to work with that.
All right. So tell us a little bit about Andy Johnston, the passionate wine guy. What got you into wine originally?
Probably much the same as what got you into it. I'm passionate about wine, and for many years of my life I was a wine educator. I used to teach people about sensory evaluation of wine, what went with what, pairings, how to taste a wine and destructure it. And there's a society called the Epimean Society, which back in the 70s and 80s was quite important in terms of importing well-priced, reasonable wine. And I used to be a speaker for the Epimean Society, so they trucked me out as far as PEI to do presentations for the society. And from that, I got into deciding I wanted to make wine, and I wanted to start. I'm a physician by profession, and it was time to stop being a doctor and start being a winemaker.
There you go. Well, and wine's pretty healthy for you anyway.
Well, certain amount. There are provisos with alcohol. 7% of the population are alcoholic, and that's a genetic problem. You should not drink, period. Another 7% have more psychologically dependent problems with alcohol. That's a big question as to whether they should drink. But the other 86% of the population, yes, it's a healthy product. It contains, particularly red wine, something called resveratrol, which is cardioprotective, and hence the French paradox. But there's a limit. There's the J curve. If you go over the limit, 12 ounces for men, 8 ounces for women a day. And no, you can't store it up and drink it all the weekend. It's not allowed.
There you go. I'm sure there's a few out there who try once in a while.
Absolutely.
Cool. So now you spent some time traveling abroad as well to learn some of your winemaking, things like that. Italy, France.
Yeah. I think there's two choices if you want to get into the wine business. You've either got to go and get some education. You can go to university, do a diploma, do a degree, or you can start working in the industry. And that's difficult to do because access points are difficult. But I was fortunate enough to have an access point, and I went to Tuscany to work for 3 months. From Tuscany, once you're in the industry, there's a lot of networking. So you're talking to a lot of winemakers, a lot of wine people, and you can get jobs through that. And so I went from Italy to Australia to France, funnily enough, France to New Zealand, and then it's been New Zealand ever since. And I've been there 2 or 3 times, making wine and working in the vineyards and wineries.
Now, as far as wine regions on the planet, is there a wine region that you kind of have a particular favorite to? Are you a favorite of BC or New Zealand or France? Or
my favourite wine is the one that's in front of me, as long as it's of good quality and reasonably priced. I very much assign quality to price level. If I have to have a region that I really enjoy, I'm very biased towards New Zealand because I've spent a lot of time there and I've worked a lot there and I know a lot of people there. particularly the red wines, more so than the whites. So that might be a bit of a surprise to you, but white wine in New Zealand, they make lovely white wines and they make lots of it. I'm not a fan of their Sauvignon Blanc style. They make some nice Chardonnay and some nice Pinot Gris.
There you go. Now, what varieties have you found do well in the Cowichan Valley for you?
The varieties you have to pick is dependent upon your environment. So you've got to look at your soil, your aspect, and your heat units, the heat units in particular, and then you can make a choice as to what varieties you want to grow. And we have a whole range of varieties in the cool climate, particularly the Pinot family. There are some very interesting hybrids which we work with, and the Germanic wines, the Ehrenfelsers, Bacchus, Ortega. Riesling, I'd love to grow Riesling, but it's really quite a late ripener, and I don't think it would do that well in the Cowichan Valley. But it's one of the things I probably will try in the fullness of time. I love dry Riesling.
There you go. And one variety you guys plant in particular, Nierychlo Foch. And you're using it kind of as one of the backbones of this wine you've brought with you today. We've got your Privot. And Privot, where does the name Privot come from?
Privot is the name of the mountain on which the winery is situated. And it was a nice one-word name that I could use that could identify what we're trying to do. This is a red wine blended from Mount Privot. So
excellent. So tell us about this blend. What are we going to be tasting?
This is a blend of hybrids with a little bit of Merlot in it. Yes, we can grow Merlot on Vancouver Island. You've got to work with it to do so, but you can. There's two wineries making Merlot. There is Averill Creek and there is Alderley. And both of us tent the variety, which means we put a greenhouse over it, a little plastic greenhouse, in the spring to bring the wine on. The other two varieties, Nierychlo Foch. Nierychlo Foch is a vastly underestimated wine. I think it was grown for many years in Ontario and BC, producing vast quantities of very poor wine, so it got a pretty bad name. On the island, it's a different animal completely. We crop low. We crop at about 3 to 3.5 tons. It's a very low maintenance vine in that it can be on its own roots, so it's not grafted. We know what the vigor's going to be. It doesn't need a lot of spraying. It's very disease resistant. There's another side to that as well, but we might talk about later.
For sure.
Problems with Nierychlo Foch, makes very big, lovely, fruity, plummy wines, but it's a little lacking in tannin. And you can do several things with that. You can work with biotannins to give you more structure, or I prefer to blend it. Now there's a new variety that has been developed by a chap called Valentin Blattner, who's a Swiss grape developer. Breeder, and he's got this variety called Foch Cabernet, which is Nierychlo Foch Cabernet Sauvignon Cross.
That probably gives the structure to the Foch that it would need.
Absolutely, it's a low ripening cab basically, but it's very, very low cropping. It's very small, tight berries and very loose bunches. So again, very low maintenance in terms of spraying, and produces very black, intense wines. So we have wonderful acid structures on the island, which gives us the wonderful colour. And the blended wine, I think, is a very successful wine. The first wine we released under the Privot label was 2007, and that was 3-year-old vines. And it blew me out of the water because it was such an intense wine. Also 2007 was a very rainy, cold year. So for this, what I call my poor old teenagers in the rain, produced this fabulous, fabulous wine. And we got a bronze medal All-Canadian. Oh,
well, there you go.
So that only had 5% Foch Cabernet, and it was a little lacking in the middle palate, and because it just didn't have the structure. 3-year-old vines, rainy year, no Foch Cab. So this has got 10% Foch Cabernet, much more structured, and this one won silver medal All-Canadian.
Silver, even better.
Well, this has got a beautiful colour.
Yeah, as it sits, you're opening up my glass. I really appreciate, like you said, it's a plummy wine, but it's got a lot of kind of raisiny fig going on. I get a hint of almost saddle leather with it too. It's got some really interesting depth of character, and you can sense the brightness, the bright acidity from the island as well.
It's really, really nice. That's going to be a very successful wine. Even the fruit flies like it.
Absolutely. Here in the wine garage, there's some wine being made behind us. Fruit flies are culminating ever so slowly. Yeah, it definitely has that bright, clean acidity, but loaded with flavor. You get a lot of those black and red berries.
And what do you think this is, an island red wine?
If someone told me this was an island red wine, I didn't know anything about the island, and then, oh, isn't it cold there?
Yeah.
I would never guess it was an island wine.
Yeah.
But coming from the education you've just given us, it's an exceptional wine. I really like it.
When I first went to Vancouver Island and I toured the facilities I could find and talked to the people there, and the first thing they told me is, well, you can't grow grapes in Vancouver Island. You can't grow red grapes in Vancouver Island. You can't make red wine. Oh, okay.
Now, how many areas on the planet have been told the same thing? The Okanagan's been told, so I'm sure Burgundy was told the same thing back in the day, all these places. And the man who steps out and does it proves them wrong.
Well, the guy who's leading the pack is Roger Dossman of Alderley. He's a wonderful man and a good friend, and he's one of the first guys who started growing grapes. Marilyn and Giordano at Venturi Schulze and Jim and Loretta at Zanata were sort of the people who really started this. But Roger, I think, is the principal viticulturist there. He knows more about growing grapes in Vancouver Island than anybody, and does a brilliant job year in, year out, no matter what the weather is. He gets great fruit.
Great.
He was my consultant for the first. Well, he still is my consultant. When I have a problem, I talk to Roger.
Now, you know this wine obviously better than me. What would you pair this wine with?
What we had last night.
What did you have last night?
Ossobuco.
Ossobuco.
Fabulous.
Describe that to us.
Ossobuco is veal shank.
Oh, excellent.
Cooked it's lightly floured and sautéed, and then cooked in white wine and battuta of carrots, onions, and celery. You've got to really simmer it, and it's got the marrow in it, and it really becomes very rich and flavourful. And served with the risotto milanese, which is one of my favourites.
That's a really nice wine.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining us today from Averill Creek in the Wine Garage.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time being here. So if you're looking for a new wine to try out, make sure you check out Averill Creek. You can see their label there. Make sure you check them out on Vancouver Island. You will not be disappointed. They make all kinds of great other neat aromatic varieties as well. Like you said, you do your Pinot Gris, you do your Gewurz. And because of the island and the acidity they're getting and some of their programs they do on making their wines, they're getting really nice aromatic bright wines. And something to look forward to trying.
Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir is going to be the best Pinot Noir in Canada.
It's going to be, I'm going to hold you to that.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
My goal when I started this was to make the quintessential Canadian Pinot Noir.
There you go.
And Jürgen Goth said, well, you're getting there, and you're not there yet, but you're getting there.
You're getting there. Great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to trying that one. So look out for their Pinot Noir as well.
Absolutely.
Great. So thank you so much for watching today. Look for the link below the video to go visit Averill Creek's website. They've got a beautiful website. You'll see their facility and everything there. They've got you've got a great patio and everything there too as well. Great
Bring your
stuff.
picnic.
Bring your picnic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I don't cook, but I'll make the wine for
You'll
you.
make the wine for us. Great. So again, thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you on the next episode.